I have never received more emails based on the title of a sermon before the sermon has actually happened since my arrival at All Souls. Everyone wanting to chime in, which I think is fantastic. In 2008, Sarah Palin argued that real America has a specific set of homogeneous values that just happen to be very similar to her own. And even though she later apologized for her comments, the question raised from her ideas remains relevant. Who is a real American? I am a real American. I was born in Oakland, California at a naval hospital. I was raised in Oklahoma, went to public school, played sports, and frequented the public library. By 13, I learned gun safety and had fired a .22 pistol and an AR-15 semi-automatic weapon, something Sarah Palin would be very proud of. At 15, I started earning money and paying taxes. And by 16, I was driving on public roads in my own car. After high school, I served as a Rotary International student ambassador to Belgium just as Gulf War I broke out. This was a scholarship program that was funded by the generosity of American and Belgian Rotarians. I paid my own way through a state school, the University of Oklahoma, supported by scholarships and government grants and money lent to me and secured by the government. My liberal education in philosophy and French was also funded in part by my job at the Oklahoma Republican Party headquarters in Oklahoma City, where I worked for 2 years. As you can see, I am in fact more complicated than any pollster can classify, and I would bet that you are too. There just aren't enough boxes on these forms to check. And though through your experience, you may in fact be completely opposite of mine, I would still argue that you are a real American too. I am a real American living what is considered to be the American dream. I own a home, I have a respectable job, insurance coverage, two dogs, and a family. And even though my relationship is not recognized legally in this country, we are not ridiculed or tortured or punished while we live out our lives waiting for the law to catch up. Although I may not fit Sarah Palin's definition of a real American, I am not a fake American or a phony American. I am not an ungrateful American, nor am I un-American. I am a real American who is patriotic and at the same time very aware of my own privilege. I am a real American who knows that our freedom was not free and continues to be paid for with the lives of soldiers and activists, with the lives of farmers, and with the working class. I am a real American who knows that our history includes inspiration as well as appropriation, slavery, greed, and controversy. And still I have faith that this democracy gifted to us by our forebears will continue to move this country toward more and more justice, more and more freedom, if more Americans will invest in its future. And that future looks more and more diverse. According to a 2008 survey, a third of Americans, are ethnic and racial minorities. And that is increasing. Already, nearly 45% of our children under 5 are minorities. Although 88% of us are said to believe in God, 70% believe that religions other than our own are equally valid routes to truth. You might not know that living here. And while 59% of us think that wearing an American flag pin is a decent way to show patriotism, even more of us, 66%, think that protesting U.S. policies that we oppose is also a very good way of showing patriotism. Unfortunately, a closer look at who we are also shows that over half of us would fail a civics literacy test, unable to answer basic questions about how our country is run, what rights we have as a citizen, and the power that we have to affect change. Questions like, what are the 3 branches of government? What powers specifically belong to the federal government? And what rights are guaranteed to us in the Bill of Rights? On the one hand, it is extremely easy to be an American. For most of us, there is no quiz, no test. If you were lucky enough to be born in this country, you were gifted certain rights that people will fight for you to have, even if you don't know what they are. On the other hand, in order for our government to properly represent the majority of Americans, the majority of the Americans must be actively involved. Or those who are involved must be actively looking out for those who are not actively involved. So what threatens our government from succeeding in representing the actual majority, from representing real America? It is not the 2-party system or the bureaucracy. What threatens the basic rights of Americans is not special interest groups or consumerism or biased media. What threatens the future of America and the health of our system is a denial of our diversity and apathy. A real American embraces our diversity, recognizes that a person can be a real American and live in a city. A person can be a real American and speak with an accent. A person can be a real American and be a Muslim or a conservative Christian. Sarah Palin, God bless her, is a real American. And so is President Obama. And a real American is involved in our democracy, invested in our democracy, and educated about our history. It may be easy for most of us to be classified as an American, but to be a responsible citizen takes an investment. It doesn't just happen. And if you have a vision of an America for our children that includes education and health care for all, and an economy that supports opportunities for every American to be able to feed and clothe their families, these are not rights granted to us. They must be spoken for, demanded. If you have a vision of the future of America that involves fewer Americans in prison, fewer Americans on drugs, and fewer Americans in poverty, a vision of saving the soul of this country, it will take an investment of your time, talent, and treasure. Investment in learning about our history as well as our present. An investment of your skills where you can do what you can to further your values in this community. By being an educated voter, for example. By investing your treasure, by paying your taxes, and financially supporting organizations that further your values. That's what it will take to save the soul of this country. Now, saving souls in this country will also take a commitment of your time, talent, and treasure. Saving the country's soul and the souls of this country are equally important. This church is a model of what it means to embrace diversity and to gather around shared values.